back again with another art review, and today we're going to talk about review The Sixth Day, which stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and directed by Roger Spottiswoode. Now, the plot to the film here, it's in the near future. Cloning's become more advanced, but human cloning is still illegal. You have Arnold's character, Adam Gibson, he's his family man, but he's also a test pilot. You have his buddy at work, Hank, who is played by Michael Rappaport. And one night when Adam comes home to a party, he sees that there's another Adam Gibson in his house. Basically he's been cloned. And so, Adam Gibson's trying to figure out what's going on here. And at that time, when that happens, he's being pursued by these group of people that want him dead. So he must find out the truth as he tries to get his life back. And that's the plot here to this movie. Now, again, directed by Roger Spottiswoode. Now, before directing this film, he also directed Shoot to Kill, Turner and Hooch, Tomorrow Never Dies, and apparently he turned down The World Is Not Enough to direct this film. So I do like, some of his work. I mean, Turner and Hooch, minus the depressing ending, is still a good movie. Tomorrow Never Dies is a really good Bond film. But, watching this again, it almost seems like he's not, for me, like he wasn't right for the job. Like, his direction is, like, just passable. I think because, for me, with this film here, while I like the story, I like the concept, but at the same time, it's a film that's kind of, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Like, you can see the potential there for this to be, balls to the wall, make it like it's PG-13. And that's what, for me, being PG-13, it definitely hampers it a little bit. I mean, it just feels a bit tame, with Arnold, being in there, and you have the story, this concept where you could have really, you could have went all out. And I mean, yeah, this film back in the day, I watched quite a bit, but it's a film now that, I watch. I still like the movie. For me, it's a decent Arnold film, but at the same time, you can see where you're like, man, what if, if this was R-rated, what if they, really, didn't hold back? And that's the thing about this film here that I'm like, if they didn't hold back a little bit, maybe if you had another director in there that can really, again, not that Spottiswoode, his direction is terrible, but, what if you had a Jan de Bont, the same guy that directed Speed, Twister, or if you had a Wolfgang Peterson, who directed Air Force One, like one of those guys, guys that have directed action movies before, what if they took on this movie? I don't know if there was other directors that were considered. But again, I'm not saying that Spottiswoode, his direction is terrible. For me, it's kind of like, in the middle of the road here. But I think it's a lot to do with execution. That, again, you can see the potential here for, this film to really be more than what it should be, or be more than what it was. I mean, and I know I haven't really talked about the cast yet, but it's something that I wanted to, mention, because I still like the film and I can still watch the film. Arnold's not the problem, but I think at the end of the day, I think the execution should have been more. And I really think that instead of being, 2 steps in, 3 steps back, just go for it. Make it R-rated and really, go ham, if you will. And maybe Paul Verhoeven, which maybe he was at this time working on Hollow Man, so I don't know if he probably wouldn't have directed this, but again, I still like Roger Spottiswoode. Some of the films he did before. Uh, Even I'll admit, Tomorrow Never Dies is a better movie. You know that I can watch more than this. But so I would say the direction is again kind of in the middle of the road for me. Kind of moderate. But talking about the cast here. But the cast here, everybody does a good job. I mean, Schwarzenegger, again, he's Adam Gibson. He's this family man. This father that's trying to get his life back, and he's also a test pilot. And then the third act of the film, that's when you have the two Arnolds, the two Adam Gibsons. They team up to go after our villain here in the film. But Schwarzenegger is good. Tony Goldwyn is, again, he's our villain. This Michael Drucker, who owns Replacement Technologies. And, a good actor. I mean, he was the bad guy in Ghost. So, he does a good job here. Michael Rappaport as Hank, Adam's best friend. Michael Rappaport, prior to this, he was in Deep Blue Sea, Copland, another good actor. And then, you have some of the, bad guys here in the film, Talia, he was played by Sarah Winter. She's a kind of an assassin. I skipped over Michael Rooker, but yeah, Michael Rooker's here in the film as Drucker's right-hand man. So in that group, you have Michael Rooker, Sarah Winter, and Terry Crews, which this is the debut of Terry Crews. Adam's wife in the film is played by Wendy Crewson. She was in The Santa Claus and The Good Son. Good actress. Robert Duvall, of course, as Dr. Griffin Weir, who is he's in charge of the cloning. And apparently Gene Hackman was offered that role, but he didn't like the script. But that would have been cool to see Arnold and Gene Hackman, share the screen. But Robert Duvall, even though you can argue he's not given a lot to do here, but he's still good in the film. It's good to see Robert Duvall. But for the most part, the cast is good. Again, Arnold, I have no complaints about. The villain here in the film, Tony Goldwyn, again, he's not bad. He's good. Michael Rappaport, Michael Rooker, Terry Crews, Wendy Crewson, Robert Duvall. So everybody does a good job. But the action here, I mean, for the most part, the action here is decent. I mean, it's not top notch, but, Arnold, you see him, carry this gun, and I mean, it's the future. So every weapon, shoots like this laser. It's almost like a blaster. But, I like that how this weapon, when you fire this weapon, you shoot off limbs, and there's a scene in the film where Michael Rooker gets his leg shot off. So you do get a little bit of that. When somebody is shot by this gun, they get their arm blasted off, or fingers, or leg. So, and then in the case of our bad guys here, Michael Rooker in that group, there's a number of times in the film where their character gets killed and they get recloned. So, I mean, I make it seem like it happened a few times, but, really it happened, 2 or 3 times, in the film where, Michael Rooker's, his leg gets shot off, and then they have to clone Michael Rooker, or, the girl with the hair, this girl right here, that's one of our villains here in the film. She gets cloned 2 or 3 times. Terry Crews. I don't know if Terry Crews ever got cloned in the film, but, so I like that aspect of where the villains would get killed and they would come back later. And you do have a couple of great Arnold moments here in the film. I mean, for example, that everybody remembers is the scene where, Drucker is talking to Adam Gibson, and Adam Gibson's like, if you really believe that, then you should clone yourself while you're still alive. Why is that? So I can understand your unique perspective? No, so you can go fuck yourself. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great Arnold line. I mean, probably, probably the best line from the movie. But, so again, as far as like moments, action, what have you, highlights, again, it's more, like Adam Gibson, he's trying to get his life back and, trying to stop these guys and stop this character Drucker. And so, I mean, and as far as the technology in the film, I mean, it's there. I mean, you kind of seen this done better in other movies. Like you get some stuff in the film, for example, the Senpou Cindy, which back in the day when I had this on tape, that doll, like those scenes would always crack me up, with the doll, because you got a scene where the bad guys take the doll and Michael Rooker's like, somebody do something about that damn doll. And they shoot the doll's head off. And then a little bit later on, you have, Hank that has a virtual girlfriend. I'm like, it's 2021. What are we waiting on? What's the holdup? But no, I'm just kidding with that. So there's some interesting stuff here. I mean, the one scene that kind of bugs me a little bit looking back, when Arnold is in that police station, I don't know, like it seemed like he got out a little bit too easy. That's just like a very kind of small nitpick, but it was cool to see, a little bit of technology here. So there's some fun elements like that. And yeah, like I said, the third act I thought was fine. And overall, the sixth day, again, I think for me, I would say this is a fair to decent Arnold film. Again, the cast is not the problem. I think for me, with this film, I think it should have been more. I do feel that if it was rated R, and if you went balls to the wall, with this concept, and maybe you've had another director in there that, could really, bring it. Roger Spottiswoode, while I do like some of his work, like, I wonder if you had another director. I mean, Peter Hyams even. I mean, I just reviewed End of Days. What would Peter Hyams do with this movie? Or, Wolfgang Peterson, which I think that year he directed The Perfect Storm. So, I don't know what other director, I don't know, what are some directors out there, that could have really made the film that much more. So in the sense, I do think it's a little bit tame. For the story, for the concept, it's like, 2 steps in, 3 steps back kind of thing. But, I can still watch the movie. Yeah, the acting is not the problem. I just think, maybe a tad tame, a little bit tame for the concept. But, again, it's still a fair to decent movie. Not my favorite Arnold film. It would not even be in my top 11. But, a decent watch. So that's my review of The Sixth Day. Thank you for watching. And up next is Collateral Damage. So stay tuned for that and have a good day.